What's up, guys? Welcome back to the GWOT Goons Show. Hope everyone is having a great day today. I'm Jeremy, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. It is sponsored by my boy Craig Fleming at Fleming's Cleaning. Use code word GWOT13 and get 10% off on your next commercial or residential cleaning if you're in the San Antonio area. I noticed that some of my viewers are not subscribed yet to the YouTube channel, so please go ahead and hit that subscription button, like, comment, and share this content so we can get the word out. Also, check out the Spotify channel at the GWOT Goons. Go ahead and subscribe over there as well if you like to listen on the road to work like I do. Please check out our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at the GWOT Goons. My next guest is the highest enlisted member I've had on the show. And without further ado, let's get into it. Curt Woodard.
All right. Hey, appreciate you having me on. Look forward to getting into it.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on, man. You're the highest ranking enlisted member I've had, and quite an impressive career. Was it 23 years?
A little over 23 years, but yeah, I just rounded down.
23 years in the United States Marine Corps, retired as a sergeant major, has multiple combat deployments. We're talking about 6, some pretty cool rotational force stuff, and excited to have you on, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I was following some TikTok pages and stuff, and I think I told you, right, when I retired in 2021, about a year after I retired, I kind of started doing a podcast myself called Stories Earned. And I'll be honest, I still think it was the right time, because it was right during the election cycle and things went from the funny stuff we were doing on deployment to quickly turn political, and that was not the direction I wanted to go with it. So I just backed off. And also, I didn't realize how much time and effort go into podcasts, man. Like the
Yeah.
editing and everything else, the postings and everything. It's almost a full-time job. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, there's actually a radio show, Reach Across America. They want to have me on, but they want limited profanity, and it takes me a long time to edit all that stuff out. And I don't
Fair
like the
enough. Yeah.
I don't like the bleeping. So I'll do
Sure.
what I do is I mute it, and it does take a long time. And working full time, it's pretty rough to do all
No
that
doubt,
stuff.
man. Right.
Yeah.
Hey, so don't make
Um.
fun of me. My daughter's got these Stanley Cups, man, all over the house. Y'all can laugh at me all you want to, dude, but they're awesome.
Yeah. Actually, Stanley has a
Anyway,
big discount right now this month. If you did not know.
so that's
Yeah.
great.
So.
Don't tell my daughter that. So
Yeah, if you're military, you get I think it's like 40% off, dude, right now. But we'll keep that on
no
the hush
shit.
hush, dude. Yeah,
No
yeah.
doubt. Yeah,
Um.
man.
So yeah, you joined the Marines in what 1998 during like peacetime, and what was your life like before you decided to join?
It was different. It's a lot like it is now, I feel like. And I guess so I had all intents and purpose of serving 4 years, getting some money for college, maybe some
Hmm.
direction in my life. Uh when I was in boot camp though, we had a first sergeant, they were giving a history class to us.
Yeah.
And they stopped the history class. One of the lieutenants came busting in the back door, had some papers in his hand, right?
Uh huh.
And he gave it to the first sergeant. The first sergeant looked down, goes, "Okay, gentlemen." And none of us knew nothing. We were so, when you first
Right.
come in, you don't know a thing, and so the first sergeant says, "Hey, the Second Marine Division was just doing a training exercise in Kuwait, and Iraq just overran them and wiped out the entire Second Marine Division, right?" And so, uh, of course, that's very far fetched, but us being recruits had no idea. And he told us that all of our MOSs had been changed to O3 and that we were going to war with Iraq. And boot camp had been cut short by 6 weeks,
Oh
which a
wow.
lot of us were already O3, to begin with. So we're like, okay, here we go. But there were people that were start freaking out, man. It was pretty wild.
So,
And
yes.
then they go on to say, hey, just didn't happen. But, in Vietnam, something like this kind of did happen. They shortened boot camp. A lot of the MOSs got changed to support the fight,
Yeah.
things like that. And so the whole point of that was just to say, hey, that's how quick things can change.
Right.
And then he went on to
Absolutely.
say, he said, hey, the last thing we had done major at that point was Somalia. And that was like, what, 92, 91, 92.
Yeah.
And she said, on average, every 8 years in the Marine Corps, we do something kinetic. Like we do something boots on the ground, and we're in a fight somewhere.
Hmm.
At that point, we were pushing the envelope. We were like at 6 years or so. So he told us, he looked all of us dead in the eye. He said, "Mark my words, in your next 4 years, in your next enlistment, something major is going to happen, and we're going to go to war." And so I was
Yeah.
like, okay, it goes in one ear out the other in boot camp. But literally, as I'm sitting in South Korea on September 11th, it was probably right after 10 p.m. or so, in South Korea,
Right.
about four drinks deep. And we watched 9/11 happen on TV, and that's literally the very first place my mind went, was that first sergeant telling us that in that class.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy.
How did you know, did you know you were always going to join the Marines, or did you look at a different branch? Like, cuz this is peacetime, right? When you joined like 1998. So, is there a
Sure.
reason?
My grandfather was in World War II. He was an Army engineer. He's at Normandy Beach, Battle of the Bulge, all that stuff. Didn't talk
Yeah.
about the fights that much, but he talked about the good times he had, the camaraderie, and the things, the things that we typically talk about, And
Right.
so, and that hooked me, man, from a young age. I was hunting, I was fishing. I'm from small Southeast Texas town. That's what we do, outdoors. I can remember playing war in the woods to Red Dawn.
Yeah.
Like I was ready
Yeah.
for the Russians. I was ready for the Russians to come invade at like 7 years old. So,
Uh-huh.
uh, but man,
And how
I knew I was interested in the military at a young age. My junior year, I really started looking at the different services and that sort of thing, and the Marines just caught
Mhm.
my eye. So.
And so, since your love of like we always do as kids playing war and stuff, you're like, "Hey, I knew I wanted to be Marine infantry."
Yeah. Dude, I was
And
recruiter's wet dream, man. I walked into I'd already taken the ASVAB. I'd already taken the ASVAB, and I walked in the first day I could, the summer between my junior and senior year. I was like, "Hi, my name's Curt Woodard. Here's my ASVAB score, and I want to be in the infantry." At that time, the infantry wasn't as popular as it is now. No one wanted to go be in the infantry, so they were always trying to fill the infantry slots. And so I was like literally a piece of gold that just walked into the recruiter's office. But
oh, so like then, like it was like a little bit, because okay, so when I joined, it was way later, and obviously they're a big pitch for the Army, so you could pick your job. So the Marines let you pick infantry at that time.
sure, yeah, yeah. It's a lot back then before the war. Vastly different how the jobs were picked and that sort of thing. But I'll be honest, like it was weird because when the war kicked off, I recruited, during the height of the war. I think like 2000. So recruiting like 2008 to like late 2010, and
Right.
so that's when we were doing the plus up, in the entire military force or whatnot. And it's the
Yeah.
height of the war, and you would think recruiting would be down or whatnot, but the Marine Corps was cruising, man, and we were having to take people out of infantry spots because so many people wanted to come in and go infantry. It was wild.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so. How was where did you what boot camp did you go to? Did you go to the Hollywood Marines, or did you go to
Yeah, I was
Paris
Hollywood
Island?
Marine. So how they had it set
Okay.
up when I went to boot camp, how they had it set up was our recruit training was if you lived a male and lived west of the Mississippi River, you went to the West Coast. If you
Yeah.
were a male and lived east of the Mississippi River, you went to Paris Island, and all
Mhm.
females across the nation went to Paris Island. Now
Okay.
everything's fully integrated, so both East Coast and West Coast. But
Yeah.
forever, I think until like 2 years ago, actually 2 or 3 years ago, you know, our females went to Paris Island. So.
Oh, okay. Did you find boot camp challenging? Like, what was it like in those early days?
Football two-a-days in high school. I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I don't know if you played ball in school. My dad was a coach
Yeah, I did.
here, and so I grew up in like an athletic family. I was definitely no standout superstar, a very average, below average player, but I did it to stay in shape and stuff, and obviously it's kind of a family thing. Uh, but that growing up in a sports family, growing up in like the football environment, you learn teamwork and that sort of thing. And during the two-a-days, it's a push, and so that's kind of what I compared it to when I went to boot camp.
Yeah.
And I was not the smallest guy, surprisingly, in the platoon. I was like a buck 05 when I went to boot camp, man,
Yeah.
but soaking wet. But there was surprisingly people smaller than me. I was like, man, I just picked the smallest person. So if he can do it, I can do it. So.
Yeah. I always tell people like football in Texas is like a religion here, and
Different, bro.
when
It is just different.
and I felt like it really prepared me for my boot camp basic training, whatever you want to call it, because like my coaches were in our faces yelling, and I'm like, dude, it's the same thing. It's not even that hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
No.
but how was it though? Did you find, besides like you're 105, did they make you gain weight or
Oh
did
yeah, I gained
you?
a little bit of weight there. I definitely got stronger.
Uh-huh.
Not at first; it took a little bit. Our recruit
Yeah.
trains a little bit longer than the others, and so
Yeah, absolutely.
they,
Yeah.
they spend that first part kind of really breaking you down, and then they have time to build you back up.
Mm-hmm.
And so definitely came out stronger, faster than what I was when I went in.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I went off to my first duty station was in First Battalion, Third Marines in Hawaii. And
Oh, that's
so
cool.
yeah, I was 18-year-old kid stuck out on Honolulu. So life sucked, right?
Yeah.
But
So this is what time frame, like around the late 98,
yeah,
99.
this is right around Christmas time. '98 is when we actually
Uh-huh.
checked in. Our whole unit was on Christmas leave when we checked in. So
Yeah.
yeah,
How are you guys, how was your first like few months at the unit? Like, cause it's your first like
yeah.
cause real Marine time, I guess, right?
Yeah, and so I guess that's where I learned how not to be a leader. And I'll be honest with you, man, because you hear about going to new units and you've experienced it yourself, that being the boot, the new guy in the unit, and I don't know how you're in the Army, correct? And so I don't know how in the
Yeah.
Army it was or whatnot, but the Marine Corps, they weren't always the nicest, right? I mean, I got it, for good reason or whatever. They want to make you hard. But I think there's a
Yeah.
fine line between making someone hard and then being completely disrespectful and degrading to somebody, and just
Yeah.
making them do stupid shit, just to do it. And
Yeah.
so I'll be honest, that first few months in my Marine Corps career is where I probably learned the most how not to be, what not to do as a leader, because I had such it wasn't great. I was like, man, this can't be how the first 4 years is going to go. But
Yeah.
uh, it changed. The newness wore off. We quickly were able to size up those career E3s that didn't have any want or desire to be there, but just had a little man syndrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just wanted to be dicks, right? So you
Yeah,
quickly size
absolutely.
those guys up, and once you put those guys in check, it's pretty easy. It didn't take too long to do that. you know
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I joined in 2012, so like everybody's already been through Iraq. They've been through like early stages of Afghanistan, and
sure.
I was just treated like trash. Like, dude, like I don't know how it is in the Marines, but we have like unit songs
Yeah.
in the army, and I remember I didn't know the unit song, and I was literally there for like 24 hours, and then they were like, "You need to earn this piece of paper," and I'm like, "Well, I don't know the song." They're like, "Well, you got to learn how to do it." So I was just doing push-ups, trying to learn the song, but
Dang.
dude, it just
Well,
sucks. But you know how it is. Like people want to size each other up and go harder than they need to be. Like you said, some people are
sure.
just assholes.
Yeah, I remember getting our E-tool qualification, and we were in Hawaii, so our squad leaders took us to the beach and was trying to make us dig fighting holes in the beach, which is damn near impossible. It sucked, man. But just like stupid shit like that. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
what lesson am I learning this? Okay, I'm making me hard by
yeah,
filling, taking sand out of the hole that's not ever going to,
yeah. How long did you spend in Hawaii?
4 years. Right at my first 4 years, and
Okay,
then.
so did you end up going like a rotation to Korea? Is that where
Sure.
you went?
Yeah. So I did. I went to Korea a little bit. So during that 4 years, I did two deployments, peacetime deployments,
Yeah.
both of them to Okinawa, Japan. See, Third Marine Division, which is out in Hawaii and Okinawa, Japan. Their kind of sector of the world is Asia. That's that at the time the way everything was set up. Our battalion, when we were deployed to Okinawa, Japan, we were supposed to be first responders to Seoul in case North Korea invaded South
Right.
Korea. We were
Yeah.
the ones who were going to be the initial wave. And so deployed the first time to Okinawa in '99, there for Y2K, which is wild. Uh,
What
we
was it
were in
like?
dude, we were in Tokyo, right? And we were Mount Fuji, Japan training, and they gave us a 96 for New Year's to go to, or a 4-day pass to go to Tokyo. So me and all my buddies, I mean, we go to Tokyo, and we're in this, they have this sub district for clubs like called Gas or Roppongi is the name of it, and there's a club called Gas Panic. It's probably 3, 4 stories high. It's crazy, and
Yeah.
Y2K, everyone thought the world was going to end. And
Yeah.
so we're in this club dancing and stuff. They start doing the countdown. They get to one, and like literally music stops, and no one says Happy New Year or anything. Everything's like quiet. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, everyone realizes we're all still here. It was like, yeah, like music goes up. It's like drinks go everywhere. It was wild, dude. But it was a great time. But that was my first deployment. Really, I mean, what I got out of that was a lot of great training, good deployment training, things like that. But it just helped me develop my leadership. I was very glad, and I'll get to this here in a few minutes when we get down further in my career. But I was very glad that I had the grooming and mentorship early in my career before my combat deployment started, because I was
Yeah.
able to develop my leadership style and that sort of thing and not have to do it trial by fire. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so,
Absolutely.
yeah, I felt like that helped me out a little bit. But anyway, so the second deployment, I was in South Korea when 9/11 happened. We were at a bar, it was four drinks deep, right after 10 p.m., and we watched it happen on TV. And we thought it was some crappy, South Korean movie because we couldn't understand it. And
Right.
everyone in the bar just kind of stopped, was like looking at us, like, "Oh shit, this is really going down." And
Yeah.
so we were stuck over in South Korea for like 2 weeks. There's only like five of us from my unit there. We were training the South Korean Marines how to call for fire in air, and I was a corporal, E4.
Hmm.
And it took us about 2 weeks to get back to our unit in Okinawa, and we had the whole battalion area was staged. Humvees were loaded down. I'm talking about everyone knew we were going somewhere. We just didn't know where, right? And our
Yeah.
company gunnery sergeant, who's like the senior listed tactical advisor to the company commander for an infantry company, and he's also the logistics guru for the company. He had gotten life-size posters of the Statue of Liberty, and instead of the flames, he was holding a big middle finger, and on it said, "We're coming, motherfuckers," and that was on every door, dude. It was on
Yeah.
every door in the barracks, man. It was freaking awesome. But and so we knew we were going somewhere, but we also knew what our responsibility was in 1-3. So we were all like, oh man, we're not going to get in a fight because we're here for
Yeah.
Korea. They're not going to pick us to go. And sure enough, man, we watched the invasion of Afghanistan from Mount Fuji, you know what I'm saying, in a rec room. So
Yeah.
that I'm not gonna lie, that was rough. Like being in when 9/11 happened and being in the infantry and like seeing like what you're supposed to be doing on TV, like
Yeah.
that was pretty disheartening, right? I was like, Dad, gum, I just re-enlisted. Uh, I didn't know where I was going to go yet, though. Literally, like 2 weeks later, I got orders to go be an instructor in Quantico. I was like, man, you got to be kidding me. Like, we just kicked off this war, and they're going to send me to go be an instructor. And
Yeah.
so that's what I did. I went to Quantico, Virginia, as a physical training and martial arts instructor at OCS, Officer
Yeah.
Candidate School. I was there for 2 years. I got a time on station waiver approved.
Yeah.
Uh,
So you guys,
so
so you were the part of the unit that was like the first like push where conventional forces were going to Afghanistan.
no, I was not. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
Like we
okay.
watched it. Like that was what was
Yeah. Yeah.
disheartening
Yeah.
about it was, our unit didn't get picked to go. We were sitting in a rec room watching the
Yeah.
invasion, on
Hmm.
TV. So that's pretty rough as a grunt. And then to turn around and get orders to go be an instructor, we
It's
didn't
even
get to
worse.
get a chance to get in a fight, And so
Yeah.
and then here I am. I was like, okay, now I'm a sergeant. I've got two deployments under my belt. We've got Afghanistan was in full blown force at that point.
Yeah.
And so we started getting guys in Quantico, sergeants and shit, who were just seasoned combat vets now.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that needed to be the instructors, not this guy who just done two UDPs. Get me in the
Yeah.
fight. So I got my time on
Right.
station waiver approved, and I went down to, I said, hey, send me to the first deploying unit. So I went down to 2nd Battalion, 6th Marines. And as soon as I checked in, my first sergeant was like, hey, here's your squad, and we're going to Afghanistan in 2 weeks. So I
Oh,
was like,
so
oh,
this is what
shit.
this is
Like, shit
like
got
what
real quick. It's
2004?
2004. Yeah,
Oh,
2004.
damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, there wasn't
What
a
part?
lot going on in Afghanistan at that time as far as
Yeah.
kinetic activity.
Hmm.
However, uh, we were there for the first presidential election. And so we
Yeah.
were literally, our company was picked to be Karzai's protection detail. We were there for a named operation, and we were there to support the Karzai protection detail from Dynacorp. and the State Department guys. So it's a pretty
Okay.
cool deployment, man. We were based out of Bagram Air Base. We did a
Yeah.
lot of cool trailer missions with a lot of Army SF guys. We did got to fast rope into the presidential palace in Afghanistan, secure it and stuff. It's cool.
Yeah.
Uh, we got a picture with the president, giving him a Marine Corps K bar with our company. So that was pretty damn
Hmm.
cool. Uh, but we didn't have any much kinetic activity, and
Yeah.
so it was a great deployment for our company because we were a young company and we got to do some real world missions, and they all went really good. And so we got some really good experience under our belt, even though it was a 4-month deployment. And
Yeah.
so we got back to Camp Lejeune, and they're like, "Hey, well, now you're going to go to Fallujah, Iraq in 6 months." And it's like, okay,
Damn.
cool. And so we turned around, got back from Afghanistan, and went straight into a workup, and then deployed to Fallujah late September 2005.
Yeah.
And we were there until April 2006, and it's pretty wild deployment, man. you know the push had already happened. We were there, like, I guess, 2 rotations after the push, but there was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
much still a fight going on there. Like, even though the big onslaught was over, every day in the streets was crazy. It was have you seen Warfare?
Yeah. I've seen Warfare.
So I'll be honest, man. Like, I get that's a SEAL, thing or whatever, but that could have been literally any infantry squad in Fallujah or Ramadi, in the Marine
Right.
Corps. And that same exact scenarios was crazy to me. Is those SEALs went through that, right? And that same
Yeah.
exact scenario probably happens to an infantry squad 3 to 4 times deployment. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
Exactly.
that scenario. Like, I don't like
Yeah.
one of my best friends named John Matter. The guy's a beast. You should absolutely get him on, dude.
Uh-huh.
He's got like bullet in his neck, legs, shrapnel all throughout the side of his body and stuff. But
Yeah.
uh same scenario though. They laid a Coke can IED out in front of his the door, the OP they were in. They
Yeah.
were they were set up, trying to ambush IED layers. They got compromised. Someone laid an IED in front of their doorstep,
Yeah.
and they were stacked up in the ladder well, getting ready to push out and to load up on the trucks. And boom, blew half of them into the street, and the fight was on. Like, literally, they
Right.
opened up from across the street and stuff. So, uh, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like, literally, that scenario though was it was like, man, going back in time.
Right.
Wow,
Yeah, my friend, actually, he's part of that Army infantry unit 126 infantry that helped recover those SEALs.
wow,
And
awesome.
yeah, and like you just said, like, every infantry, either it's the Marines or the Army, they
Sure,
saw a crap ton of combat because,
dude, it's so
dude, it's
crazy you
just like
say
you're
that,
just like
man,
posted
dude.
up, dude.
Yeah. So that's what's wild to me. I do feel like that the straight leg grunt guys, your straight leg infantry guys, that I was a career infantryman, dude. Like, I had multiple opportunities to go to like recon or things like that. I loved being with the guys, man. That was my thing, and I loved squad, platoon level stuff. And you know, I feel like that the special operations community kind of steals a lot of the thunder, because they
Yeah.
get the high, they get the movies made after them, they get all the high, value missions and stuff. But I'm willing to bet that if you serve from 2004 to say 2007, 2008, right, in that 4-year time frame,
Yeah.
any infantry unit in the Marine Corps or the Army had probably 3 times the amount of freaking kinetic activity than that one SEAL team did. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
per squad. Like, I saw a guy, it was like, it's like, yeah, we went on like this many missions or whatever. I was like, dude, that's okay, cool, man. That was
Mhm.
like a month for us, like,
Yeah, yeah.
and so, and like, they're high speed, low drag. They get, all the cool training. I got to see that when I went to MARSOC later on in my career, and
Yeah.
like, I get it. They are special for a reason. We invest a lot of money into the training and the skill set and the tools that they have to be the best at what they do, right? And
Yeah.
so, but that's what and that we were just a lower budget special operations team is what we were, dude.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I've been trying to highlight, excuse me, with this podcast, is because like you said, these guys get more money, they look cool, and
Sure.
the normal grunts don't. I'm not saying they get praised. It's kind of, they're often forgotten, And people forget that every other MOS in the military supports the infantry, whether on both
Sure.
sides. And dude, even I mean, like I hear stories of these Navy SEALs and these Green Berets are talking about firefights, and I'm like, dude, that's how RC South Afghanistan was.
Yes. That was a
And I
day in the
went,
life, bro.
yeah,
So
and
June of 2012, right? From
yeah,
June 2nd to June 26th, every single day contact. Every single day, man. There was not a
yeah,
day in June that we didn't get to fight.
yeah,
You know, like, and it was always the same shit. We go out, we go on patrol, when we get freaking ambushed. And I was on
yep,
advisor team then. I was with the the ANCOP, the Afghan National Civil Order Police,
yeah,
and the Georgian Army, dude.
yeah,
We would be in 4-man teams with the Marines, and I'd have a squad
uh-huh,
of Georgian and a squad of
yeah,
ANCOP here. Getting in a fight with them and trying to control them is absolutely ridiculous, man. Because
yeah,
the Georgian, their tactics are every time you take contact,
uh-huh,
don't maneuver, and they call in air. You know, and so it sucks, dude. Like,
yeah.
and yeah, it costs.
Uh,
It was very stressful dealing with that during
right.
that deployment for sure. But
So during your year in Iraq, so you're a brand new sergeant and everything like that. Basically, I don't know how the whole platoons make up in the Marines. Like, I assume you're like a team leader or something like that.
so yeah, I was a squad leader. So
A squad
in the
leader.
Marine Corps, so I think in the Army it's a staff sergeant, squad leader, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
In the Marine Corps, it's sergeant. You know, and
Okay.
so and the platoon sergeant is a staff sergeant. And
Okay.
so you know, I was a sergeant squad leader. And the thing is, you know, the Marine Corps squad was made up of 13 Marines, you know,
Right.
3 4-man fire teams and 1 squad leader.
Yeah.
Uh, we were a whole fire team down. I only had 9 Marines in my squad, to include myself.
Yeah.
You know, and that was literally every company or every platoon in
Uh-huh.
our or every squad in our company. You know, and so
Why were you guys down so much? Is it because of how many casualties y'all were
manpower,
taking?
man, manpower. It was so
Yeah.
weird. So many people were getting out that time, and that's when that became the issue in like late 2007, 2008 time frame. They were like, "Hey,
Yeah.
we have an issue." So they, you know, did the influx or whatnot. If I'm not mistaken, I
Uh-huh.
can't remember the exact dates, uh, but yeah, you know, so it was wild because like I'll never forget. So I'm in Fallujah. We were staying at the train station in Fallujah. The CMOC, which is probably 6 to 8 blocks away from us, down on one of the main route that ran through Route Michigan that ran through the city. And it was like 2, 3 a.m. one night. We'd just gotten back from like a 4-hour patrol. And CO was like, "Hey, Sergeant, I need you to take your squad back down to the CMOC and escort this team of SEALs over to one of our OPs, which is like 4 blocks away from the CMOC, okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
Are
need
y'all
to
like
escort them."
patrolling or driving?
Yeah, so we've been on a present, just a regular patrol, a combat patrol. We were just out.
Okay.
At nighttime, not a whole lot ever happened at nighttime because not
Yeah.
in Fallujah, because there's nowhere for them to hide, and it's we own their night vision and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
uh so I'll never forget. I got back and he was like, "Hey, I need you to go escort this team of SEALs, uh, 4 blocks over to one of our manned OPs, and they were going to do some counter sniper operations." Uh, you know, Crazy enough, we lost 3 Marines, 2 sniper fire in one day, and that prompted them, the SEALs coming out. It may have been Chris Kyle's team, dude. I'll be honest with you, I can't remember who it was or whatever working with us or whatnot, but it all
Yeah.
kind of matched up the time frames and stuff. But
Yeah.
regardless, yeah, I only talked to the commander, but uh, we went down there. We picked my 9-man squad picked up an 8-man SEAL squad, and freaking escorted them 4 blocks, and then went 8 blocks back to the train station. Right. And so I'm like, oh, these
Right.
special operators can't, they can't walk 4 blocks by themselves. Come on, man. Like, no, and this is what the funny part was, right? And so this OP was in like the major intersection in Fallujah, at the intersection of Fran and Kath, or Fran and Henry. And we signaled they were coming. I'd already radioed they were coming. We set up security around the intersection. They had us overwatched at the OP. And I talked to the commander. I was like, "Hey, sir, your security set up. You guys go ahead and bump across by twos. Constantina's open. Everything's good." because they start bumping across by two. So we're tactical. Everything's quiet as shit. And there's a median right in the middle of this freaking cement median right in the middle of this freaking road, right?
Right,
And
right.
these steals start, back to back moving, nice and sly across this intersection. Wham! One falls over the median or
The
whatever, and then
median.
boom, the other
Yeah.
one falls right on top of him, dude. I'm talking about gear bomb went off. It was loud as shit, and all around the court and all around you hear Marines just kind of start snickering. Yeah, it was hilarious, dude. But
Yeah. So how are you feeling at this time? I'm like this. You're like, I'm not trying to downplay it, but like you're doing what you joined the Marine Corps for, right?
oh, absolutely, and that's it's crazy because. Yeah, we can get to that if you want later or whatever. But as far as like when I got out and transition and stuff, but we were in it, bro. Like we were training for war, and I mean, I loved it. I loved being a grunt, and
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, there is never, ever, ever going to be a level of responsibility, no matter what I do for the rest of my life, than there was being a squad leader in combat.
Yeah.
Nothing will ever equate to that amount of responsibility. And so people will forever chase it. And I think
Mhm.
that's a lot of what happens with vets is we get burned out trying to chase that.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a high, and it's like I said on one of my podcasts. Like I went to Afghanistan, RC South, as a medic in 2012. Like I was still paying my GI Bill off, dude. I was probably 8 months in, and dude, when I came back, it was so bad. Like I missed the high, and I almost got kicked out of the army because I was so depressed all the time.
yeah,
But
it's
you're
crazy.
absolutely right, man. It's just I think the biggest thing is that you're doing what you're trained to do, and like
Yeah.
there's no job out there that's gonna compare to that.
So here's what sucks, right? And so people don't get. I was listening to DJ Shipley the other day on his little group thing, whatever. He was talking to somebody about the transition and going through the stuff we did. A lot
Yeah,
of us did. Uh, you know, it's rough. You do one deployment. So stuff goes down one deployment. You compartmentalize it while you're on deployment. You come back. Even when you come back, you still don't have time to unpack it. While you're active duty, you do not have time to unpack everything you've gone through because as soon as you get back you're gonna go and leave, and then guess what? You're going right back into a workup. And so there's no downtime, or you're gonna go leave somewhere else and you're gonna support the mission in some way, shape, or form. And so you're constantly going, you constantly have a job, you constantly have a purpose, you constantly have a mission. So you don't have time to sit down and think about everything you've gone through, right? And like
yeah,
really unpack it all. Uh, so I feel like after you get out, that's one deployment. You go on one deployment, month one of a 9-month deployment, you lose a Marine, on a mission, and you go back and you inventory their gear, you make sure your guys are good. And then guess what? And
yeah,
guess what? 6 more hours, we're going back out. And
yeah,
so that's month one of 9 months. So you just
yeah,
got to turn off that shit, right? And then when you get
mhm,
back, that just turn back on. And you go ahead and add 6 or 7 more deployments on top of that. It's hard to ever turn that shit back on sometimes. And
yeah,
so uh it's not like we try to be like walking zombies or emotionless or whatever. It's just we were trained not to deal with it right then. Put it away. Tuck it away. Save it for a rainy day and move
move
on with
on.
the fight. Yeah, and so that's what I did for a long damn time, man. But
How are
I did
you?
the
How are you like? So I assume you guys took some losses, right, in
yeah
in that first deployment in Iraq.
yeah.
How are you? Is that the mentality you have in like instilling in your younger Marines?
So I'll tell you what, man, combat completely changed my leadership perspective. I guess my leadership style in a way.
Yeah.
Uh, Before you see combat, all you hear is the stories and things like that. So you don't have the experiences to actually know it yourself. And
Hmm.
so you only know what you think you know, right? You only know, oh, I've heard this. This is how I'm going to be. You don't know until you're there, man. And then when you're there and you're in it,
Yeah.
things happen so fast and so quick and you know people don't realize they're not like the movies, man. Firefights don't last hours, bro. Like minutes, seconds sometimes. It's like all hell
Yeah.
breaks loose for freaking 5 minutes and then boom, not another firefight for 10 more missions. And
Yeah.
like and so that I mean that was constantly.
Yeah.
weighing on us or whatever. But
And it
I don't
doesn't
know. It
always look
was
sexy.
no, absolutely
Yeah.
not, dude. There was
Like,
yeah, it was
you're not
not the
having
movie,
this
bro.
dude
Yeah.
with this fucking manly beard and this cool freaking
Mm-mm.
slick back hair doing this awesome, like, cool guy stuff, like this
Sure.
John Wick stuff, dude. And it's like, I mean, like you just explained, one of the higher level special operations unit, a Navy SEAL unit, they're freaking falling over a median in the side of the road. Like
Yeah.
it's just they're normal people too. And like my friend said on the podcast I had like 4 podcasts ago, the enemy that killed them is the same ones that was killing us.
Yep. Yep.
And it
That's facts.
and
But
and and
so yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so leadership wise, like you think you know one thing and you see experience something completely different. And I'll tell you what, man, I feel like combat made me really appreciate the value and value life.
Absolutely.
Like you've seen how
Absolutely.
quick things can end. And
Yeah.
so I took that with me, my leadership aspect, and it really made me give a shit about my Marines. Like freaking because at the end of the day, like I always thought I cared, but when you lose a Marine, like you're like, dang, man,
Yeah.
like it's an eye-opening experience, one you
Yeah.
carry with you. So uh yeah.
So how long did you do that deployment? It says what, like a year, or was it like
Yeah,
nine
it was like
months?
7 months. Yeah, that one was seven. The Marines did a
Okay.
lot of 7 and 9 month deployments. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but our rotations were quick, man. We go seven, come back, and then like 9 months later, boom, go back out. Like
Yeah.
we had
How
a
are you
very,
feeling at this
very high
point?
operation.
How are you feeling at
I
this
was
point in your career?
good. I was high on life, man. Like freaking, I just, survived my second combat deployment. We got back from Iraq and
Yeah, yeah.
we went to Fleet Week, like literally in New York City. We rode in on the ships. It's like the whole week's dedicated to us. It's so crazy. But
Yeah.
we get back from leave and stuff, and like, hey, you guys, we're going back to Fallujah. So we're like, oh shit, here we go again. And this time I was on the advisor team though to the Iraqi army, and so
Hey, did you know that you were gonna stay in the Marines? Like, hey, I'm dedicating my life to
oh
this.
yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah, yeah. When I re-enlisted right after 9/11, I so weird you say that. So my second time I re-enlisted, we lost the first Marine in our company, Josh Snyder, on November 30th, 2005. Right, literally,
Mhm.
I re-enlisted the next day. So I had planned on kind of getting out after that second enlistment, and when Snyder died, I was like, oh, I'm not done. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I
So
really at that point that was what took me to my third enlistment, and then was yeah, I was going the distance at that point.
okay. And then on your third deployment, or yeah, your third deployment, and then you're going back to Iraq, Fallujah. Did you hit staff sergeant yet, or anything like that,
So
or
I literally got promoted to staff sergeant right before the deployment,
so you're taking a
which is one of the
platoon, right?
reasons. Yeah, and so but I didn't get a platoon. I went on an advisor team. Uh,
Okay.
and I don't know how they did it in the army, but we put together advisor teams, which were a lot like the combined action platoons in Vietnam. How they would live with the indigenous forces,
Uh-huh.
and train them and fight with them, And
Yeah.
so that's what I was doing with the Iraqi army. I had a 8-man
Huh.
team, and we lived with the Iraqis for 8 months,
Yeah.
and literally patrolled the same streets I had patrolled, 9 months before, but same AO with just the Iraqis. So it was pretty
Yeah.
cool. I didn't even need a map, dude. It was pretty awesome.
How was this deployment compared to your last one? Is it just as on and popping, or is it kind of a little
Yeah,
bit
so I will
slower?
say it was I felt like kinetically there was a lot more sustained fights in that one. I felt like
Yeah.
because they were really probing the Iraqi army, dude. Because they had kind of taken over the city, the Iraqis had, and
Yeah.
the Americans were pulling out, and so they were really like trying to lay it to them, And so,
Yeah.
so that kind of got us caught. And honestly, I was more scared of getting shot by an Iraqi soldier than I was, Al Qaeda, because they'd go into the Jundi, what they call the Iraqi army. They go into Jundi death blossom, is what we called it. We just start shooting circles, dude. They take
Yeah.
contact. 'Cause in the city, you don't know where contact coming from a lot of the times. The sound
Yeah.
echoes and bounces off the buildings and shit, And so a
Hmm.
lot of the times you don't know where you're getting shot at until someone falls, the direction they fall or whatnot. Or you have to see a muzzle flash, in a window or whatnot. So
Yeah.
uh it's pretty crazy there. So these Iraqis, they get shot at, And I'd tell my guys, don't get out of the Hummer. Just let them run out of ammo. It's crazy. But yeah, that deployment was pretty crazy. I mean, it was the first time I'd kind of felt kind of alone and afraid, I guess, we, being on the advisor team, we were supposed to have battalion support. And I think I have, looking back, I have some issues, the way we did that in both Iraq and Afghanistan with the advisor mission, and wanting to, build up their army to take over. Everyone always said, oh, the advisor team's the mission. That is the mission to get them up, capable and to take over. But on the ground told a complete different story. You know what I'm saying? The commanders were very quick to say that out loud, but when it came to putting your money where your mouth is, the advisor teams were definitely not the freaking main effort, man. And like we got shat on like we were the stepchildren of the battalion. And so
Yeah.
we were literally seeing more contact. My Iraqis were seeing more contact than anyone on our battalion was. And so but getting support from them was like it sucked. Same thing in Afghanistan in 2012 when I was on the advisor team there. So
Yeah. How so the advisor's a part of the part of your battalion, and it obviously briefs really well, right? Like, hey, you guys are selected to advise the Iraqis. They're gonna take control and all that stuff, right? That's what they're saying, right?
sure. So
And
here's how it worked. Here's how it worked. Battalion would be tasked. Hey, you've got to put four 12-man advisor teams together,
right,
right? Those are supposed to be your main effort. They're going to go live with the 4 Iraqi battalions throughout the city. They're going
yeah,
to train with them. They're going to go on missions with them. They're going to, completely immersed with them, right? And
yeah,
you, as a battalion, are going to support that effort in every way, shape, and form.
yeah,
Very much has some overzealous battalion commanders that wanted that car chasing or combat action chasing, metal ribbon chasers that could not.
yeah,
They had to get their piece of the pie, right? And
absolutely,
so it became to where we were definitely not the main effort of the battalion, because the battalion wanted to go off and do their own operations, their own clearing operations and shit like that. When literally that was supposed to be the Afghanis doing it. Like literally or the Iraqis
yeah,
were supposed to be doing it.
uh
And
huh,
so and our team was supposed to be doing it with them, right? And so
yeah,
with the battalion support and air and everything else, and so it just didn't happen. Like literally it was like the Italians wanted to steal the thunder. Like, oh, look what we did. We went over here and did this in
yeah,
Iraq. Like, okay, cool. You completely went against what the mission was supposed to be. And so, and
absolutely, yeah,
because of that, it probably got some people killed. So,
yeah,
uh, but that's frustrating. And so,
yeah,
when I was looking at both, Afghanistan was probably a little worse than Iraq was as far as the advisor mission goes.
uh huh,
I got to Afghanistan, man. My team didn't even have a crew serve set, like for our vehicles. I literally
yeah,
walked all over Camp Leatherneck looking, beg, borrow, and stealing crew serve weapons, to outfit
yeah,
our team. And lo and behold, I find a Connex box full of 50 cals, 240s, freaking you name it,
uh huh,
Mark 19s. And they're
yeah,
not on anyone's CMR, dude. So we were fortunate enough to find some weapons. But I mean,
yeah,
and we were supposed to be the main effort, and so that was rough.
yeah.
Uh,
How's
we
your
had
career? Oh, my bad. How's your
yeah, good.
career from like '07 to 12 when you deploy again?
So '07, got back. I'd literally just done 3 combat deployments in 2 years.
Yep.
Uh, and they're like, "Hey, congratulations! In 2 weeks, you're going to check into recruiting school." And so I just re-enlisted or whatever, and just kind of got travel and adventure for my orders. And they were like, "Hey, I know you just got back from Iraq, but in 2 weeks, you're going to go to recruiting school. You're not going to have any time to decompress from 3 combat deployments in 2 years, and I want you to go
Yeah.
recruit for the next 3 years." So, uh, that's kind of how it went. Went out to recruiting
Yeah.
school. That's kind of where I learned kind of what I'm doing now. Like I'm in sales now. I do
Uh-huh.
medical sales or whatnot, and
Yeah.
recruiting was kind of the first taste of that. I really enjoyed it. A
Uh-huh.
lot of people don't know you get certificates for communication skills. You get professional selling skills certificates from outside entities that come in and teach you all this, and that's stuff that carries over with you to civilian life.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah. Would
Did
you
that for
would
3
you
years.
would you recommend that, or would you recommend the drill instructor thing to the Marines out there
That
watching?
I think they both are awesome. They both have their jobs. Obviously, there's always going to be the rivalry, inter-service rivalry, where like drill instructor's better, or recruiter's better,
Yeah.
whatever. But we all have our missions. Like literally, we are supporting each other, whether they want to
Yeah.
talk crap or not. And so I think recruiting, a lot of people don't know. I mean, it's a long hours, man. Nonstop. You're working late hours. You don't get time to see your family. A lot of times the divorce rate's high out there because families don't understand why their husband or wife isn't home, all the time. It's supposed to be easy duty, and stuff like that. It's just not the case. It's a grind, and it's a sale. You know, you're literally going into people's house and sitting parents down and convincing them
Yeah.
to sign their son or daughter's life away to you. So, uh, and there's a mission that has to be met, and that's a no-fail mission. Which I don't think any mission's a fail mission, right? But you always hear, "Oh, that's a no-fail mission." Well, no shit. Every mission's a no-fail mission, man. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It was rough.
Yeah. How do you feel as a
Recruiters
grunt?
definitely have it rough. I mean, drill instructors definitely have it rough too, though. And
Yeah.
so long hours, physical, exhausting. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
How do you feel as a
either
grunt?
way.
How do you feel as a grunt right now?
So as far as like recruiting,
Yeah, because like you're taking a break. The war's still going on, and like how do you,
sure,
like I knew it's like a broadening assignment, right? And how
yeah,
were you feeling as an infantry guy? Because it's not what you signed up to do.
no, definitely not. But I was open minded. I had a really good instructor in recruiting school.
Yeah.
He saw something in me, and I was a successful recruiter, man.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I spent a year in Jasper, Texas, recruiting, and then I went to Texas A&M to be the Marine Corps officer recruiter
Oh, that's
for
cool.
2 years. And we were the number two officer recruiter in the nation, 2 years in a row there. So
Yeah.
uh, it was a hustle. It taught me, I feel like to me,
Hmm.
leadership wise, it broadened my perspectives on, learn time management, organizational skills, uh, do the right thing when no one's watching or whatever, because no, it was an independent duty, man. No one's holding
Yeah.
your hand telling you, hey, you got to hit these numbers. It's like, hey, you either get them or here's your negative paperwork and your career's over. And
Right.
uh so yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of good leadership value that came out of recruiting duty for sure.
Hmm.
Also being able to learn to listen to my Marines, man, because in sales and recruiting, you learn to listen with a purpose, and
Yeah.
like really kind of find the need behind the need so you can support
Yeah.
that need, right? And so you bring that into leadership too with your Marines, man. Your Marines got a problem, they're having an issue or whatever, learn
Yeah.
teaches you how to listen for sure.
Yeah. And so this is what, like 2012 or 2010, early 2011 when you get done with it?
Yeah, 2011, I went to Camp Pendleton, California, the First Battalion, First Marines, and
Yeah.
literally within 30 days deployed on ship, the 13th MU, Marine Expeditionary Unit. We were a
Okay.
battalion landing team. We
Yeah.
we went all over the Middle East, man.
Yeah. What does the mute do? Like what is
So the
that?
MU is a first response force. Okay, so basically they travel out with the Navy and they've got a destroyer and a big carrier group, right? Or
Hmm.
they've got a destroyer, the carrier, the mini carrier, LHDs, a sub, all these things that bring up the firepower of the U.S. Navy, and then they got a whole battalion of Marines and all the support that goes with those Marines with them. So the Marines on that ship are the first responders, throughout the world. So whatever sector they're in, if something happened, you can better believe the MU is probably going to be the first one to go in.
How do
So
how do you get selected for that, or is it just something you come up on orders, or what?
units rotate. Yeah, like literally, the units are set up on a rotation. Like there's
Oh,
certain
okay.
battalions throughout the Marine Corps that will always deploy with the 13th MU. And there's certain battalions that will always deploy straight to Okinawa and not on ship. And
Yeah.
so it's just kind of pick. I don't know how they pick that honestly, but
Yeah, it's kind of like the army. It's like the same battalion. They call it GRF, the Global Reaction Force, and it's the same
sure.
concept.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's cool. I always wondered what the Mu did. I was like, there. Somebody was like, "Oh, it's my old alma mater." And I'm like, "There's no way
dude,
you were
it's
in the Mu
cool
the whole
though,
fucking
man.
time."
Ship life for Marine is awesome, man. All you do is sleep, work out, read, and work out. Like I mean, that's it. So it was good, but you get kind of cabin fever being on ship for so long.
Yeah,
It was so crazy. Everyone's talking about the Houthi rebels and stuff like that, but this was back in 2011, and we were like literally planning to go in. Look, dude, this is the map right here, Sana'a, Yemen, dude. Nah,
uh-huh.
this is the capital. This is the capital of Yemen, and we were going to go in and secure the airfield there to do a non-combatant evacuation operation if the Houthis overran the embassy. Like, so we were
Right.
dealing with the Houthis back in 2011, dude. Uh,
Yeah.
we cut grid squares off the coast of Yemen for 90 damn days. Just waiting on this shit to go down. It never went down. So,
Man, that's very interesting. I didn't know it went back that far. I mean, I was still in high school in 2011, but dude,
yeah,
that's
man.
that's interesting.
It's
And
just really
how
cool, and it's just weird. It's all being prevalent now.
yeah,
It's been prevalent, man. Like I don't know how many times we try to cross the straits, or we crossed the Straits of Hormuz, and Iranian speedboats, missile, boats were, excuse me, missile boats were shadowing the ships. We'd
yeah,
have to launch helicopters from the ships to do show of force with them and scare them off. So, and that was back in 2011.
yeah. How long is that mission with the Mu?
That one we were out for 8 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn, dude. And then you're going right back to Afghanistan in 2012.
Oh, dude. So January of 2011, I rolled out for 8 months. I got back. I think it was like October, November timeframe of, but yeah, of 2011.
Yeah.
Literally, another unit was putting together an advisor team, and I was
Uh-huh.
pissed because we were supposed to go to Afghanistan on the mute,
Uh-huh.
and while we were steaming out, the Arab Spring kicked off. Yemen was rioting, all that shit was going on, and Libya kicked off. Gaddafi got taken down, all that shit, and there was no
Yeah.
MEU in CENTCOM at that time, so we had to make a beeline for CENTCOM and be first responders. They scrapped our Afghan mission. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and so I was kind of mad because I wanted to get back to Afghanistan and get back in the fight, and so
Yeah.
we got back from that deployment like October, November timeframe, and literally I jumped on an advisor team and deployed again right in February of 12. So like 4 months later, I guess I turned
Yeah.
around and went to Afghan. But dude, I was in it, man. Like you get in it and you're like, dude, I just want to deploy. I just want to, you get the fever,
Yeah.
and it's awesome, and so I was ready
You're
to
an
get back in the
infantryman.
fight. Yeah, yeah, and was ready to get back in the fight, and I jumped on that advisor team. And that's how it led to my Senate job, honestly, the advisor team, because I literally just done two back-to-back deployments with a 4 month dwell time within a year, and
Yeah.
so I emailed the monitor, who's the person that gives us our orders and stuff like that. Like, hey, what do you have that's available that could keep me competitive for promotion, but kind of maybe keep me landlocked for a little bit, like give me a break. And I needed it, and I didn't hear nothing back. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. I'm just stuck in Okinawa or something.
Yeah.
I got an email from this guy who said he was the liaison to the U.S. Senate, and that my name had been thrown in a hat with some other guys or whatever. They needed Marines who'd had multiple combat deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, and prior recruiters because they needed people who could talk and communicate. So
Yeah.
uh, I had to fly. Jumped on a medevac chopper from our position to Kandahar, and had to do like this video teleconference interview with this colonel in DC. Didn't hear nothing
Okay.
back, forever, and ended up getting picked for the job. So
Oh,
came
okay.
back from my, I guess, what was that? One, two, three, four, fifth combat deployment, and uh, like immediately within 2 weeks had orders to go to Washington D.C. So I
Yeah.
just done multiple combat deployments within a year and a half, and now they're going to send me to DC to wear a suit and a tie for the next. I didn't wear a uniform, period. You know what I'm saying, at all. I was in suit and
Yeah.
tie every day, conveying the Commandant of the Marine Corps' legislative priorities to members of Congress. All right, and that was our job. I was like,
Oh,
dude, y'all
okay.
sure y'all got the right dude? Because I'm just podunk dude from Texas that has a huge accent and you know, and like whatever. And but it was a great job, man. I got to meet all the McCain and everyone you see on TV, dude. Get
Yeah.
pictures with all of them and stuff. Mattis, everybody. But it was a great job. We got to travel all over the world with U.S. senators, all over Africa, Europe,
Uh-huh.
worked with the State Department, worked with different OGAs to set up all the meetings and with different heads of state and things like that. So worked with all the embassies, so
Yeah.
that was fun. Uh,
Before we jump too far ahead, how was your advising deployment in Afghanistan compared to Iraq? Were the Afghanis
yeah,
still like the Iraqis?
complete no, bro. Like so, I honestly I'd rather fight the people we fought in Fallujah versus the guys in Afghan, man. You know, the
Yeah.
Taliban's been fighting for thousands of years, bro.
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
absolutely.
this is like a long fight, and like the people, like they've mastered the L-shaped ambush. You know what I'm saying? Like they have done things like they're hardened fighters. You know, half the
Yeah.
guys we fought in Fallujah, we called them part-time fighters because they got paid like $150 and were given a magazine of rounds. And told them to spray at us, but so you fight those guys all day long. They're just spraying a AK over a fence line, frag out, we're good, right?
Yeah.
But you get ambush 800 meters, 900 meters away, but multiple positions, grazing fire, encompassed with an IED ambush, and you're caught your pants down in the middle of nowhere. You end up using your feet, trying to make a freaking ranger grave behind you to slide back into, man, because you get caught in that flat ass ground out in uh, Helmand Province. So it
Yeah.
was wild, man. Complete different battlefield change dynamic. I was always one like I was never a leader that said, "Oh, I've been here, I've done that." Like you've got to do it this way. No, the battlefield evolves. It's like everything else, like literally daily, and you have to evolve with it. And if you don't, then you're going to hinder your team.
Mhm. Yeah, and would you say that had more fighting out of all your deployments that you had?
100%. Yeah. Like it was the most kinetic deployment I'd been on. But coincidentally, like we didn't lose any Marines. We had an
Right.
18-man advisor team,
Uh-huh.
and but we had a 50% Purple Heart ratio. So
Yeah.
we came back with everybody, but we got a lot of injured. We got hit by a
Yeah.
lot of IEDs, man. But
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the common theme with everybody that's been in Iraq and then Afghanistan. I like you, I was in RC South, so I was in the Maywan province, and
okay.
and dude, like I had all these guys from like the 101st, like it's one of those bigger army units, and they're just like, man, the RC South area is just like Kandahar is just crazy.
The Wild West, bro. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's dumb. And so if we didn't get in a firefight, we were definitely if a shot was not fired during the day, we were definitely going to take IDF at night. You know what I mean? Like there was no
yeah,
ifs, ands, or buts. Like, oh, they didn't attack us today. Great, we're getting mortared tonight. Like that's how it went.
yeah,
Uh,
and a lot of people don't know too. Like you said, they've been fighting wars for thousands of years. A
sure.
thousand. They were taking out the Russians, and
Yeah.
their ambush technique is perfection almost. Like they
Sure.
can lure you in, and then you're gonna hit a freaking a small IED, and it's gonna take out like
Well,
half your squad.
it's jacked up too, man, because like literally we had people shoot at us, drop their
Right.
weapons behind a bush, get on a motorcycle, not have a weapon, and that was the son of a bitch that was shooting at you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was just like, man, tell you, it was rough.
Yeah.
And had they let us fight the way we were supposed to fight, and the way we were trained to fight, without the gloves on us, I
Yeah.
think we would take a lot less casualties, and a lot of the stuff would have been taken care of a lot sooner. You know,
Yeah.
but they played politics with the Marines, in the army, the soldiers. But uh,
Yeah.
so here's another thing with that too. So my advisor team in Afghan, I had a what's a USAID, right? The USAID got worker that lived in my position. Literally once a month, a non-government organization helicopter would fly in, give him a bag of money, like a backpack full of fucking US cash,
Yeah.
and he would go out amongst the population. And they would not attack us because they were paying off the provincial governors not to attack us and shit, man. I freaking that's back in 2012. And so
Yeah.
that's the first that side, like real like corrupt kind of thing started seeing in there, and so or the politics of it. And I
Yeah.
always try to keep that out of it because when you're over there, that shit doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
when you're in the
It's all about
fight, like
survival.
I don't care who's president when I'm freaking getting shot at. Like I care about my Marine, and so you get back, all this stuff goes on, and then you start being the pawn in the political game, and especially when you're high enough to see it. You know what I'm saying? When you're at a high enough rank to see it, but you can't necessarily
Yeah.
say anything about it, because you're not that high up, So
Yeah.
it's like, man, this is kind of crazy, but it always stayed
Yeah.
in the back of my mind, and feel like after I got out watching Afghanistan literally fall the month I retired, uh, the way it did, that was heartbreaking, bro. Uh,
Yeah.
I just retired 23 years, and 20 of that 23 years had been in the fight, and
Yeah.
so watching all the hard work we had done, and all the advisor teams or the mission and stuff, just to fall the way it did, the loss of life the way it did, the equipment we left them. It was like I felt like it was the biggest slap in the face to all of
Yeah.
us who had been over, and been there and done
Yeah.
that. And that was happening like as I was retiring, and so that made me build up animosity for the Marine Corps. We oddly enough, and I couldn't understand why. For like the first year I was retired, I was so mad at the Marine Corps, man. I couldn't figure out why. I had to realize, hey, I'm not mad at the Marine Corps. We did the thing. We did what we were told to do. Hindsight, whatever. Uh, at the end of the day, while you're in it, you feel like you're doing things for the right reasons, right? Uh,
Yeah.
you never think your leaders would lie to you about things. You never think people would fabricate things to put people in harm's way, and then you really start kind of digging into Iraq, right? And like, I feel like Afghanistan very much justified, man. Very much probably the first year of Afghanistan, 100% justified. But the fact that we didn't follow bin Laden over the Pakistani border in Tora Bora was baffling to me. All because Pakistan has nuclear weapons. You know what I'm saying? So they weren't going to cross that imaginary line over into Pakistan because they're a nuclear state, and so that would have been an issue. And
Yeah.
so after that, I felt like the war machine really took off. All the contracting companies, Kellogg Brown and Root, the Chow Halls, everything else, like that war became a money pit for it made a lot of people rich, man.
Yeah.
And I got that. That's not the whole reason. I'm not sitting here trying to be one of those people like f the government or whatever. But there were some things that went on and probably should have ended long before they did. And
Yeah.
so especially the way it ended, the way it did, if we were just going to make it end that way, why did we spend 20 years there? Like there's thousands of Marines and soldiers and airmen and sailors that lost their lives for what? And so that's kind
Yeah.
of how a lot of us felt. Uh, so it took me a while to get over that and realize that you got to be proud of your service, and you've got to be proud of what you did because you did it for the right reasons, and so
Yeah, my it's funny that you bring it up about the politics and stuff like that. In 2012, it was a weird time to be over there. I'll send you a
yeah,
story later. My friend Cairo Kendrick, he wrote this story called "Apples on the Road," and the Afghans were complaining to our unit like, "Hey, there's too many apples on Highway 1." And so a platoon went out and they picked up all the apples, and then they blew up a 500-pound IED, and we lost five
sure,
guys. And looking
crazy
back on it
man,
now, you're like, that's political type missions, right?
yeah,
And it's common, and I'll say it to you too. Like, we're not proud of the political aspect. We're proud of our brothers that we served with,
yes, 100%,
and
100%, man,
that's what I want a lot of people to remember. Whether we're going through hard times or good times right now, it's like, hey, remember the brothers you served with. Maybe not the mission or the war, but what we did over there, like, you rocked it, man. Your service means something, and it's all about the guy next to you.
no doubt, 100%, man, and I feel like that. And I feel like there's a disconnect between, especially like on social media realm, like on TikTok and stuff like that. I see all the infighting between like active duty, influencers and vets. the vet bros or whatever, and so,
Yeah.
and granted, there's some idiots out there, some veterans that are overzealous of their service or whatever. But I'll be honest, like I've been accused of being a vet bro, but dude, I'm proud as fuck of my service. Sorry, I'm proud as hell of my service. You know what I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
saying? Like I'm proud of the deployments I went on. I'm proud to show people some experiences that I may have had. And that makes me a vet bro. And that makes me like lesser of a person because I like to express myself. And honestly, that sounds like a them problem and not a me problem.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like there's a lot of that going on in our community right now in a time where it's already hard for vets to reach out, dude. It is like, you know as well as I do, we don't reach out. Like, it's not our thing. It's just, I'm going to deal with
Yeah.
my problems or I'm not. Right? Like it's just that's our mentality. That's the way we live. And so a lot of times reaching out to somebody and even me reaching out to other people sometimes is hard. So I go internal sometimes, man. I don't even want to, want to shut down. I burn out, but I think we do a really crappy job of taking care of each other after service. Uh,
Yeah.
and I would caution all the active duty, like influencers and things like that. I would very much caution them, especially the ones who are going the distance and retiring and things like that. They haven't experienced the transition yet. They haven't experienced what we're experiencing. Uh, and I've seen them all, oh, let it go, bro, let it go. Like, dude, it was 23 years of my life. No, I'm not letting that go. That
Yeah.
shaped me for who I am for the entire rest of my life. And so the fact that they would do that is frustrating because we would have all support each other in the community, but they don't know the experiences we're going through yet. So it's very easy to
Yeah.
criticize something you have not experienced yet.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I 100% agree with you. I'm proud of my deployment, and there's that whole thing, like you said, it's like, oh, why are the combat guys crapping on the people that didn't deploy? I'm like, dude, actually, we're not. You're the one that feels bad about it,
Yeah,
and
they're the ones that make the big deal about it, bro.
yeah,
I'll post a video, dude. I'll post a video of some cool stuff, some explosions and stuff like that I went through because I think that's cool. I'm a grunt. That's what we did. That's literally the coolest thing ever. So if I want to post it, that's what I'm gonna do. It's not because I'm trying to show off or be overzealous. I'm just happy. I think it's cool. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a cool video. And then all of a sudden I get this backlash, like, oh, freaking vet bro this or what. I was like, bro,
yeah.
do it,
Dude,
man. Like,
it's kind of sad, man. Like we're not crapping on your service. Like my
no.
wife, she was in Afghanistan the exact same time we were, but she was in the aviation, and we talk about it all the time. And she knows like the difference. She's in reality like, hey, there's different missions going on, whether it's the different
Sure.
services or whatever, and I just feel, and I told my friend this before. I even had like people that were working in support battalions and stuff like that. They're always saying, "Well, we're nothing compared to Vietnam, or we're nothing compared to World War II." And I'm like, dude, that doesn't mean your combat is any less. Like it was, it's relative to the time.
So me and my
And
buddy, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, and I try to like, I don't try to block it out or whatever. And I know everybody is like, oh, the Marines and the Army have like a little rivalry, right? It's a sibling rivalry, but it's like us, like we can relate to each other, and the people that dodged the deployment or they didn't deploy, they're crapping on us at the same time.
So, and I'll say this about that, right? So I do feel like your MOS units and things like that, have a say so in your deployments. So there's some Marines I know for a fact there's Marines that get in that want to deploy.
Yeah,
That's just not how the cookie crumbled though. That is not the unit they went to or whatever, and their unit wasn't a deploying unit or whatever. And so look, I don't have any. Me and my buddy John Matter, the guy I was telling you about earlier, we have a saying that it's called the curse of perspective, man. So I've had some pretty shitty days in combat, man. Like some days that I don't like to talk about. There's days that I look back on. I was like, damn, that was absolutely the worst day of my life, right? Like
yeah,
I know, like compared to Joe Schmo, everyday, salesman or something that's never served, that my worst day is probably 50 times worse than his worst day, right?
yeah,
However, everyone is entitled to their own worst day. Right. And
absolutely.
so while my worst day might be the worst day of my life, just because he's not experienced or she hasn't experienced something that bad yet, doesn't mean they've
Yeah,
not experienced their own worst bad day.
absolutely.
So everyone's entitled to their own bad day. Everyone's entitled to their own bad times. I think perspective, you have to put it in a perspective and say, hey, I got it, and be humble in the things that we've done and show a little bit of grace, towards them, if that makes sense. But
Yeah, you have to, and I've said this before. Everybody's heart is different, so that
sure,
is definitely plays a major role with stuff like that.
man, I would say I still have trouble letting a lot of the hate out of my heart, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'll
Yeah,
say that, wholeheartedly. Like there's just sometimes like it just freaking builds up. I'm like, man, and I don't suffer from PTSD in a violent sense or anything like that. Mine is all just lack of emotions and that sort of thing
yeah,
that I dealt with, just being able to turn them back on. You know, and so, but I can see how some guys would lose it in a way, and because
it's
there's
hard.
been times where it's built up in me, and I don't even know who it's directed towards. I just feel it inside of me because, I mean, for a long time, our job was to locate, close with, and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver, and to repel the enemy's assault by fire and close combat. That's the mission of a Marine Corps rifle squad. And so you do that for so long, it's a mentality, bro. Like literally, you're hitting punching bags, saying kill, and freaking everything else, and like so you're
Yeah,
mentally, in a spot to where, hey, I'm ready to take someone's life for my country and in defense of my nation and for my brothers and sisters to go home alive, right? And
yeah,
that becomes an everyday norm to you, right?
hmm
That literally talking about it becomes every day. Like literally,
yeah,
that's not normal. Like it's not normal to get out and talking about shooting people in the face, man. It's just not. Like
yeah,
we can talk about that and we get it.
yeah,
We laugh about it with the dark humor and stuff like that. But dude, you gotta freaking be able to turn it on and turn it off and know when
yeah,
to and know when not to. I think the
yeah,
guys that don't know when to are the ones that have more issues, and
yeah.
or don't know how to turn it off. But
Yeah, it's definitely hard, and like especially when you go through loss and everything like that. And I mean, some people didn't serve as long as you did, but they still, I mean, to this day, they're still struggling. And I'm like we as in people that have experienced it, I think we can talk to each other more. And like you said,
absolutely,
like
man.
the whole community online and all that stuff, stop trying to divide us. Like
Yeah.
we can understand each other.
Yep.
That's the best way I can explain it.
Yep. 100% agree, man.
So, your liaison time. That I know we went into it a little bit, but like,
Sure.
so when you get your pick, you're gunny at this point, right?
Yep.
And you're going around to the Senate, and I never knew that this was actually happening. I don't know if the Army does this, but like, you guys are going around with for the commandant of the Marines saying, "Hey, like this is what we need done. This is what the money we need, or what?"
Oddly enough, the Marine Corps is the only branch of service that has enlisted Marines, enlisted personnel that work on the Senate, on the other
Oh,
House for that matter.
oh
Uh,
wow,
it was all every other branch of service is nothing but captains and majors and colonels. But
yeah,
and so it was pretty cool, to be like one of one in the Marine Corps. I was the only gunny in the Marine Corps that had my job. And
yeah,
so and it was awesome. I'd get in a suit and tie. I rode the metro to the Russell Senate building every day. And our main job there was to be like a congressional liaison for like the Senate offices when they were dealing with constituents in their states.
hmm,
Medals, records retrieval. They have issues with documents and things like that.
yeah,
And those would all get forwarded to us, and we kind of decipher through them and pick where to send them to the Pentagon. That was one of our main jobs. It was to convey the commandant's legislative priorities. The commandant would lay out his legislative priorities for the year, what he really wants to focus on, in our office, and that's what we would do. We would
yeah,
try to make friends with as many people as we could on Capitol Hill, whether Republican or Democrat, and to try to, push the agenda for the commandant. While I was there, we got the 29 Palms, California land expansion got approved for more training grounds. Our office was big on that. And that was right during the time where the Marines United thing came out and the whole sexual assault thing got huge. The sapper issued programs and stuff. And so we were big on dealing with Senator Gillibrand there for trying to keep, I guess, in the the court martial and the chain of command or whatever. It was a lot to it, but it was pretty cool to be a part of.
Yeah.
Um, we got to travel different all over the world. You know, like I said, to France, Europe,
Yeah.
or Europe, Africa. Got to sit in some really cool meetings.
Uh-huh.
Be a fly on the wall in some cool meetings with
Mhm.
senators and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and I got selected for first sergeant when I was there. So yeah,
And that's a big thing, right? Like you're gonna take over a
yeah,
company.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So uh, got selected to first sergeant, and they sent me down to the logistics unit for a year.
So
And
how does that work? You're not like so you're infantry, but you're going to a logistics unit.
mhm.
Like it doesn't matter anymore when you're first
so
sergeant in the Marine.
so weird how it's not weird, but the Marine Corps does it, a different way than the Army. We've got, once you're selected for your gunny, for your fitness reports, you have to pick after that if you want to go the master sergeant route or the first sergeant route. Now, if you pick to go
Oh,
be a
okay.
master sergeant, if you get
Yeah.
promoted to E9, you can only be a master gunnery sergeant. Okay. If
Okay.
you pick first sergeant, then you can only be a sergeant major. Like a first
Okay.
sergeant can't go be a master gunnery sergeant, and a master sergeant can't go be a sergeant major. And
Oh, okay. Okay.
uh, so you had those two Y's right there, right? The master sergeant is supposed to be a master in their MOS, right? And they stay in their MOS, kind of like the first sergeants do in the Army. A
Yeah.
first sergeant in the Marine Corps, though, they become just an all over unit leader. And so they focus more on unit level leadership, vice tactical level leadership. And so basically a first sergeant billet is kind of cookie cutter all throughout the Marine Corps. Like a first sergeant can go, their job's
Yeah.
the same in an infantry company as it would be in a logistic company, like
Yeah.
their purview and stuff. So,
Yeah.
or their scope of things. And so, that's kind of cool, but and I wish I'd stayed more in the infantry because just as an infantry guy in the Marine Corps, we never saw master sergeants. I never saw a master sergeant. I never saw a master gunnery sergeant. I knew our battalion had them, but all I knew was they were stuck up in the S3 in the infantry battalion.
Yeah.
But in the more technical MOSs, when I went to like logistics, for instance, right? I was the first sergeant there. I had a master sergeant who was in charge of like 200 people over the motor pool and stuff, And so it
Mhm.
just depends on what job you go to of the difference of leadership for master sergeants. And so in the
Yeah.
infantry, I never saw one. But I saw my first sergeant every single day, right? Like literally my first sergeant, every formation, he was the one passing all the word, the mentorship, whole 9 yards. And so in
Yeah.
the infantry, seeing that every day, I wanted to be that guy, And so I was very lucky when I went down to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, from out of 2-6, Second Battalion, 6 Marines. I had a guy by the name of Brian Zigafus, who's a retired sergeant major now. But this he was a sniper in Desert Storm. He got a Silver Star in Desert Storm, man. Took out a tank, the AT-4, dude, that was coming
Yeah.
down he took out a tank that was coming through a gap in the battalion's lines with the AT-4. Pretty legit.
That's pretty cool.
But that was my first sergeant, right? And so sometimes you get first sergeants that were still infantry guys to be a first sergeant for an infantry unit, which that makes it even better sometimes because they have to know their lanes, and so not step on like the gunny's toes and stuff as far as the tactics goes. But it's these kind of, if you get a good team though, prior grunt, and in a grunt company, it just made it that much better. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, I never got to do that though. But I went to the logistics unit. I deployed there for 9 months to on the Black Sea Rotational Force,
Yeah.
and we were a combat logistics company attached to an infantry unit. Uh, so that made it kind of cool. Kind of got to be with amongst my people still, and
Yeah.
not feel so much like a fish out of water. But I mean, we had guys all over Eastern Europe, man, and we were literally there to turn Russian aggression against Eastern
Mm.
Europe. We were there to stop them from coming into Ukraine, basically. And
Yeah.
literally, as soon as we Black Sea look it up, man. As soon as the Black Sea rotational force completely pulled out, boom, Ukraine gets invaded. But the Russians had our base in Romania. The Russians would send inspectors over like once, like a quarter or whatever. I guess per like NATO or law or something, like they have to be able to inspect what we have on our base and vice versa. And so our battalion commander is the Russian freaking major was leaving or whatever, a battalion commander flips him a coin and winked at him and said, "See you soon." It's pretty funny. But so that we were all over there, Ukraine, uh, Latvia, Poland, Norway, Bulgaria. I mean, we got to experience some really cool stuff and be in a
Yeah.
cool part of history.
Yeah, it is majorly.
Yeah, and so we got back from that though, and then I randomly got a call, said, "Hey, we got a spot at an intel company at Marine Special Operations Command. Uh, want you to go take that?" Like, cool. No idea anything. I've worked with, as a grunt, as squad leader, platoon sergeant stuff. You work with intel. I don't know, dude. We had our human intel guys on the train station living with us in Fallujah. And so they weren't supposed to be feeding us information. It was supposed to be going to battalion and then coming down from battalion to us, right? But since
Yeah.
they were co-located with us, like the squad leaders had great relationships with them, and we'd go over and they give us insom on bad guys and stuff. And we would literally put together our targeted raids, for our 3-day patrol missions or whatever from
Yeah.
our human intel guys right there on the train station.
Where you
Uh,
guys at?
do what?
Where you guys at
In
when you're
Fallujah.
with that? Oh, in Fallujah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But and so being able to do that was awesome. But that's really the only, time I ever worked with them or anything like that. So I didn't really know what I was getting into. And my first day in the unit at MARSOC, I check in and they're like, "Hey, one of your guys just got a bronze star, right? And so we're presenting it to him today, and you have to read the citation, right?" I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I get this citation. I'm sitting in my new office. I ain't even logged into my computer yet. And then reading the citation, it's got all these long intelligence words and shit like that written in it, dude. I'm like, man, I'm gonna fumble through this like it's cool. And anyways, I made it through it. And you call everyone in afterwards, you talk about the Marine that gets the award, right? And I didn't know it from Adam. I'm supposed to be the senior leader talking about this Marine that just got a bronze star. Well, this Marine was a drone operator, and he had just killed about 250 bad guys in Mosul, in the Battle of Mosul in like 2017. We were
Yeah.
supporting the Iraqi army,
Uh-huh.
and he was smoking fools with a drone and got a bronze star for it, right? And as a grunt, I see all these big intelligence words, and I see 250 dead bad guys. I'm like, hell yeah, right? And so
Yeah.
we call everyone in. I'm like, look, guys, I may not know what half these words mean, but I know that's a lot of dead motherfuckers. And so it meant like literally when I left Marslot, they wrapped me this sledgehammer right here, right? And
uh,
it's really cool. It's got the Raider emblem on it, first sergeant emblem, and my initials and American flag. And up top, it's got my name on the back. It says, "I may not know what all that means, but I know that's a lot of dead motherfuckers." So
dude, that's
yeah.
crazy too. Cause like, what year is this? Is it like you're what,
This was 19,
2019?
18, 18.
18?
Yeah,
Man,
18.
I just want to highlight something here, like the way the war evolved.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about early days, there was no drones, and then now dudes are
Oh, bro.
smoking 250 people with a drone.
Nuts, man. I was just talking to someone the other day about this, man. It's like the evolution of drone warfare just from Ukraine has been light years, man.
Yeah,
It's just watching it. I don't know if you've seen all the drone footages, the soldiers and stuff getting smoked and stuff, but it's
yeah,
crazy, scary. Whole new battlefield fear, like unlocked. We
yeah.
just had to worry about dodging IEDs. Now they can worry about IEDs and drones,
The
so
flying IED.
yeah, right. So, like I
Um,
said earlier, though, the battlefield evolves, man. It's like that. That's another thing too, man. Peacetime. Oh my God, our gear, our equipment. I was using Vietnam shit, brother. Like freaking, I had an old school flak jacket that wouldn't even button, and it wouldn't even Velcro. And so the war kicks off. It's like light years, kicked into warp speed as far as your gear and technology that we used, on the battlefield.
absolutely. Yeah. And how long you spend that company before you go pick up sergeant major? Do they dangle it in your
I was
face or
there
what?
almost right at 2 years, man. Yeah, right, right at my 2 year mark. I got selected for sergeant major. I didn't even know. Honestly, I didn't think I wasn't ready. I didn't think I was going to get selected for sergeant major when I did.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't supposed to. Uh, and so when I got selected, I was very surprised. Like I got a call from my old sergeant major. He's like, "Congratulations!" I was like, "What? I didn't even know I was in zone." And so like, oh shit, here we go. So got
How do y'all get
selected.
selected for that? You have to put a
So
packet in or something, or
yeah,
what?
there's certain things you have to do your picture, make sure your fit reps are good. There's really nothing you have to do really except make sure your fit reps are good. Fit reps are our yearly reports. I don't know what they call it in the army or whatnot, but
Yeah,
uh literally you got to keep up with your admin. And that'd be my best piece of advice to any young Marine if they're watching or anything like that. Like as soon as you start rating a fit rep, keep every fit rep and make sure that you're keeping up with that stuff and that there's no gaps in it and all that good stuff because that keeps you from getting promoted. If you have gap in your reports, you didn't turn in a picture, you run a low physical fitness test, low rifle score, then you're setting yourself up for failure. But it's real easy to do the right things, in the military. I mean, literally, you just got to be in shape and follow orders.
yeah, yeah. Um, and how does it feel to be a sergeant major? Like, it's like the how did you like? Because if you're looking at sergeant majors when you're a private compared to like now you're a sergeant major, like how does it feel?
I'll be
It's the
honest, I
highest.
never
That's
thought.
great.
Yeah, I never thought I was going to give CPAS Gunny. I was very much not a yes man, and I was very much not the type of guy that was afraid or to hold my tongue. Like Regan, if I thought something was messed up, I'm going to tell you. In a
Hmm.
tactful manner. I wouldn't do anything disrespectfully. I was just never afraid to not speak my mind.
Right.
And because of that, I didn't think I'd see past Gunny. Then they promoted me to first sergeant, and then they gave me sergeant major. So I was, it was surreal. It's definitely a goal of mine. When I knew I was going to stay in, I was like, dude, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all the way. And so I'm going to do everything I can to make myself as competitive as possible, and to try to be the best I could be. And it worked. And I
Yeah.
got selected for sergeant major, and they put me back on recruiting duty. And that's another thing too. I was very excited to be the sergeant major, right? I was like, "Oh, I've arrived!" I mean, obviously, you don't take the pack off because it's lonely at the top, man.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I leaned on my peers, and I was on recruiting duty, so all my peers were way away. I wasn't on a base or anything like that. So our peers would get together maybe once every 2 months or so,
Hmm.
and COVID hit, right? I was stationed in New Jersey, which is kind of almost ground zero, right? And so
Yeah.
everything changed once COVID hit on recruiting duty, man. And I'll be honest, like that's one of the biggest reasons I got out, retired when I did, is the lack of intestinal fortitude I saw from my fellow peers at the sergeant
Yeah.
major level, like and the levels above us or whatever, who were afraid to say, "Hey, sir, hey, man, that's a dumb idea, and here's why." You know what I'm saying? Like, just it wasn't happening. All these
Uh-huh.
outlandish things were coming out, these rules during COVID and stuff. And I'm like, when is someone gonna raise the bullshit flag and say, "Hey, ma'am or sir, no"? You know what I mean? We're not doing
Y-
that.
Yeah.
And no one did that. It was very disappointing. I don't know how many arguments I got with my peers, at the higher level. That's another thing too. My experience, like I understand they had the experience, in uh, maybe being in longer just because they were older than me, but that doesn't mean they have more operational experience or more Marine Corps experience. Some people don't do nothing with their career, and they live on the drill field or they stay in drill instructors, mode, and they're able to bounce around and get all the way to the rank of sergeant major with one or two deployments, three deployments, and so I mean, dang, man. Like,
Yeah.
and you're at this level. So you're going to tell me, with your three deployments and your 8 tours on drill instructor duty, you're going to advise that full bird colonel, freaking who's an infantry guy, who you've done multiple deployments with a MU commander? Like, get out of here, bro. Sit down. That commander is going to look at you and laugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it matters. Experience matters. What you've done in the Marine Corps matters because that's how you gain leadership experience.
Yeah.
And so seeing the decision making at that level and the lack of what the hell's, it really made me start questioning things. And my daughter was in Texas. I was in New Jersey, divorced, and so I was flying home once a month to see my daughter, 1 weekend a month. Uh, and COVID hit, and then travel ban. started, right? Marines could not take leave, period. No military member could take leave, period.
Yeah, I remember.
So you've got all of America able to jump on a plane and go anywhere in the states they want. But here I am inside the continental United States. I'm not deployed. We're not under attack. And I can't go home and see my daughter. That's when I was like, yo, dropping the papers, man. Freaking for
Yeah.
4 months, I couldn't go home in Jersey and see my daughter. And now I was like, nope, not again. So
Yeah, that's good to know that there's still people up there willing to. That somebody told me when I was still like an E4, and they're like, "Hey, you got to keep your leaders accountable," and that's a way to do it. Like you don't get into pissing matches, but like you tell them, you make sure their integrity's still in check, and
sure.
like you said, during that time, it was a weird time. Like I was stuck at I don't know if you know where NTC's at Fort Irwin over there in California. I was
Okay. Yeah.
actually when COVID hit, I was actually stuck in the field problem for like I was in 2 weeks, but it was weird, man. They were like, "Oh, you guys can call your family and all this other stuff." I'm like, "What the hell?" And dude, I'm like, "Dude,
No
we're
one
sleeping
knew
right
what
next."
was going on, man. Like it was so like the
Yeah,
misinformation that was coming out during that time was like, holy shit, man. Like it's
yeah. You
crazy.
thought people were dying left and right, man. And
Yeah.
yeah, but it was weird, dude, because like we were with a bunch of people that had one person that had COVID, and then they're like, "Oh no, we got to call it. We got to come in on the weekends, like the
Oh,
medics."
dude, yeah.
And then we got to call see if they're doing all right. And I'm like, dude, what are we doing, man? I'm just like,
Every other
the
branch of
military changed a
service,
lot.
sure. Every other branch of service when COVID hit, like lowered their recruiting mission or they stopped it for like a month or whatever, not the Marine Corps. And not only did we not stop it, but we didn't lower shit. Right. And
Yeah,
so you literally just took Marines in recruiting, there's different components to it, right? Of recruiting things that you do. And so like one of those, the high school, all the high schools were closed. So we couldn't go to schools. All the
yeah,
malls were closed. Couldn't go canvass the malls. Everything public was closed. No more events, anything like that we made our money at, for recruiting. Couldn't do it. Literally, my Marines were limited to stalking kids on Facebook or Instagram to get them to want to join and do a Zoom interview with them to want to sign the papers. It's freaking
yeah,
crazy. So the stress level was high. We had Marines, sadly, take their lives on recruiting duty during that time. It was not good. It was a lot of stress on them. And so at what point does mission accomplishment? In the Marine Corps, they say mission accomplishment is the primary mission of the Marine Corps, and then troop welfare is secondary mission. But you can't have one without the other, right? And so if you're so focused on the mission and accomplishing that you're, you know, it's the detriment of your force, then are you really accomplishing that mission? And so
yeah,
I think leaders fail to realize that sometimes. Like, I don't care if you're a damn general, man. Like, generals are so disconnected from the force, it's not even funny.
yeah,
Like, and that's another thing that baffled me too, was just being able to see that. And
yeah,
so that was you get some of these. We got some genius generals too, man. Like some of the most smartest people, war fighters in the world, but they'll come up with some of the dumbest shit sometimes because they are so disconnected from what the war fighter really needs. And
right.
so there's a great book called The Mission, The Men and Me. I don't know if you've ever read it or not, but it's written by a former Delta Force guy back in the like 90s and stuff. Talks about uh you know being able to put all your other stuff before you, and I think that people fail to realize that you have to listen to the guy on the ground. If you're not listening to
Yeah,
the guy on the ground, shit's going to get jacked up.
100%.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of that not happening from like 2000 probably to the fall of Afghanistan.
yeah. I'm actually doing I do specials like per month. So like I'm gonna do an Army birthday, 4th of July. I'm actually gonna do a Afghan pullout episode, and
Oh wow.
it's just that would like I'm like you on the same page. It was such a cluster, whatever.
Yeah.
And dude, where's the accountability from it?
Yes, not one general was fired, bro. No one was held
Yeah,
accountable, bro. Like, I'm
yeah,
sorry, man. That was a jacked up mission. People need to be held accountable. That's what happens in the military, man.
yeah.
And it just set the precedent. Like, literally just set the precedent.
Right.
So is it? I
And
don't know.
you were in such a long time. Did you see the shift of like the way the Marine Corps kind of went?
Oh yeah. So we went from being broke to having no money to train with, to all of a sudden get all the money in the world and all the bullets in the world to train with, to broke again. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people, I felt like the old heads, the graybeards, like the old people, they had trouble going back to what peacetime. Everyone said, "Oh, there's no such thing as peacetime Marine Corps." Yeah, there is, bro. Like, I'm sorry, you're not doing rotation, combat deployment after combat deployment, and then workup after workup. You're doing
Yeah.
workups to do a UDP, man. Completely different. I'm sorry. Just the whole mentality, and that's another thing too. Like, I look back on that, and my sergeants and everybody else who had no experience in combat that trained me. None of my sergeants that trained me had no combat experience.
Yeah.
Like, I think we had one sergeant who was in Somalia. And so when I joined. So I didn't have any hardened combat vets train me or anything like that. And
Yeah.
so I think that dynamic was weird too. Is
Mhm.
oh, like, so many epiphanies happening, in combat, like ding, light bulbs go off, like, oh, that's gonna go
Yeah.
into, I'm gonna put that in my toolbox, but uh it's that's kind of what I was going back to earlier about the perspective and leadership in
Uh-huh.
combat and how it changes you. But
Yeah. What Since we're getting to the end of the podcast, what would you give the young Marine that wants to make it to your level, especially dealing with like you've seen like the type of officers that that are being developed now
sure.
and that are kind of in charge of everything, what would you kind of advise the guys that want to go the distance?
Don't get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you get, like, seriously, man, and you can overcome adversity. It's
Yeah.
hard though. It makes it a lot harder. All right. You have put a big roadblock in your path. All right. If you do that. So, not to say it can't be done, because it does happen. Right. But when you check into that unit, you can quickly see who the turds are and who they aren't. Don't fall in with the turds, man. Remember why you're there. Don't get this mentality of, there's a huge disconnect from boot camp to their first unit. I'm gonna say maybe in like their job school or something. It's like they're all moto, they're motivated, they're ready to be a Marine. Boom, they go to their job school and they go to their first unit. It's like no motivation. It's
Yeah.
like, like, what happened between graduating boot camp, walking across that parade deck to checking into your first unit that made your motivation level drop so much? Is the instructors? Is it is it your fellow Marines? Like, what is it? So I would say when you check in there, find your people and know the difference between the turds and the non-turds, and stay away from the diseases, because those turds,
Yeah.
that's what they are, diseases.
Yeah. Be an asset, not a liability.
Exactly. Create value.
Yeah. And then this question is more directed to like our type here is like
Sure.
the war fighter, the guys that are struggling out there still, they're lacking to find purpose when they got out, or they're just haven't been the same. I have a lot of friends that are like, well, my kid is the only reason I'm here and stuff like that. It's just I miss it so much. Like, what would you tell them right now?
You're not alone. Like, literally, you're not alone, man. Like, every single one of us who've gone down range and experienced certain things have the same feelings, and whether it's lack of emotions, whether it's hate, still built up, whether it's you miss the boys, you miss the adrenaline rush, the dopamine, whatever. Like, nothing is ever going to equate to that again.
Hmm.
So, one, you have to realize that. But
Yeah.
you have to be proactive about keeping up with your mental health too, man. Like, you've got to do things. Like, you can't just burn out and not do things to help you. You've got to, I meditate, man. That's all, it really helps me out. I do anything outdoors. I hike, I stay outside, man. I don't know about you, but I love being outside. Just, I don't know if it's
Hmm.
just the infantry guy in me or whatnot, but like, I'm hardly inside any, and
Yeah.
so doing that, I read about it. I read about my traumatic brain injury. I read about PTSD. I try to
Yeah.
educate myself on it and to do things when I know that I'm starting to get to a burnout.
Yeah.
And so, but the biggest thing, we're not alone, man. We're all going through it together. I know it sucks. I know it's hard to say, hey, I'm hurting. Right? It's hard to say I need help, but
Yeah.
but you don't have to. All you gotta do is make a phone call, say, hey, what's up, brother? Let's just have a conversation. We don't even have to talk about my issues. Sometimes just having a conversation with someone is all you need, man. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, and I would say, so my brothers and sisters struggling, pick up the phone. You don't have to call someone for help, but just call someone and have a conversation, because that may all you need.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Cause I mean, it doesn't even mean like I said earlier, I know we have a sibling rivalry and everything, but me and you've had
Sure.
like this conversation almost 2 hours, and this is our first time
Absolutely.
we've ever talked. And
Right.
honestly, it's just like it's humanizing yourself and just forgetting the ego sometimes and just talking.
Right. Hell yeah. Dude, medical sales, I don't know shit from Shinola, right? When it comes to, I sell, I work for a tissue company, and
Yeah.
we focus on wound care. So I sell amniotic membrane allografts, which are
Hmm.
placental tissue-based products, and they're like skin grafts. It's the
Hmm.
newest technology in wound care, right? I don't know shit from Shinola when it comes to to dealing with skin grafts, right? I know about wounds, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause I've dealt with plenty of them, right? But it's not about what you're selling, it's about how you sell it, right? And so
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things the Marine Corps helped teach me, especially like on recruiting and things like that,
Yeah.
was to bring that with me and to carry that with me. And so I would say to any of our brothers and sisters, use those intangible traits that the military teaches you.
Hmm.
There's a reason you guys served, whether you do 4 years, 20 years, or 30 years, right? Do it honorably and be proud of that service, man. And don't
Yeah.
ever let anyone undermine your service. The end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be getting arguments on TikTok about services,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Nobody's measuring
I don't need to
nothing.
know. I don't need to know if you like someone's haircut or don't like beards or whatever, dude. Hey, like,
Yeah, and we
mm,
don't care that you guys didn't deploy, but like us, don't make us feel like crap for it either.
yeah, don't
Like,
make us feel like crap because we're proud of what we did. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, because you didn't do it or whatever, that's cool, man. But like, I'm proud of what I did, and this sounds like a you problem, So
yeah, for sure, man. And well, I really appreciate this conversation, dude, and I hope we get to stay in touch and everything like that.
yes, sir.
Do you have any questions for me or anything like that?
No, man, I really appreciate you having me on. I look forward to seeing where the podcast goes, and I'm definitely going to keep following you. So,
Cool. So
if
that's
you need
it.
anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out, man. So,
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I texted you randomly the other day, and you
yeah,
did text me
yeah,
back, and I was like,
hell
dude,
yeah.
I don't even know this guy, and we're already friends, dude.
Right. No doubt, man. No doubt.
uh,
So
so
that's what we're
yeah,
supposed to do, though, man. That's literally what we're supposed to do.
yeah,
So if me and you can do that, we don't know each other from Adam. This is we just talked today. We've talked through text. And so
yeah,
this is literally all it takes, man. It's just talking to some people and pick up the phone. So
yeah. Find common ground. Find common ground,
yes,
and yeah. Like you said, we suck at it, but let's get better at it. I mean, that's what I'm really aiming for this whole
sure,
podcast. Is like I started off just trying to bring the band back together, and I'm like, you know what, this
sure,
can go somewhere. As in, like everybody has different experiences. So,
right.
um,
Well, I hope it takes off for you, man. Look forward to seeing it.
thanks, brother. Thank you for watching this episode of the podcast. If you've already made this far, go ahead and hit the subscription button, like, comment, share. Also, follow our Instagram, TikTok, and add the Facebook page. Curt Woodard has a digital marketing page. He can also help you with social media, a lot of IT different things. And if you want to get a hold of him, I'll link him down below. I'll also link his website below for his small business. And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode.